schooners kick, and the wind song, and the white sails shaking, and a gray mist on the sea's face, and a gray dawn breaking. I must go down to the sea again, to the vagrant's gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep, and a sweet dream when the long trick's over.
The reason wooden boats are so magical is that, you know, if you appreciate trees, for example, if you appreciate the grace and power of a tree standing in a woods, and you think of this tree giving up itself for the construction of a boat of some sort, and you sort of work in your mind through the process of cutting planks, shaping them, bending them, fastening them home in this kind of new life, in this kind of new dimension. What I see is happening is that you're taking the soul of something, which is a tree, and you're adding that to the construction of the soul of a new thing, which is a boat. And I find that taking of life and giving life to be really spiritually very important. It really is magic to me. It's powerful to me. The fact is, wooden boats are alive. The fact is, they do have a soul. Certainly, Maine was an important territory in the construction of wooden boats from the first settlements because there was so much timber here. I mean, it was very easy to build boats on the shores of this part of the world. Certainly, New England has a deep heritage, a rich heritage of boat and shipbuilding. For some reason, it lasted longer in Maine than in the rest of New England. So boat building has survived as a craft and as an art and as a science by tradition and by necessity, I suppose. But it has done very well. There are people, and plenty of them, along this coast, who have not only built boats, yachts, and larger vessels in wood, but have sailed on a lot of them. There is a particular kind of history in the minds and hearts of some of the men who sailed on those boats.
My father came to Booth Bay when I was 4 years old. From that time on, I lived in boat shops until I retired somewhere, I guess, 6 years ago. One of my hobbies is maritime history. My interest has been in the collection of photographs of Maine-built schooners, Maine-built commercial sailing vessels since the Civil War. I've read descriptions of standing on the Woolwich shore looking across the river at Bath when Bath was in its heyday, and there were shipyards from one end of the stretch of river that you could see right to the other like that. Everything in the way of schooners, ships, bark, brigs. There were 10 six-masters built in Maine, if I recall correctly, 52 five-masters, and something on the order of 325 to 30 four-masters, and maybe up as high as 1,000 more three-masted schooners. There are a great many of them. There's a fascination about ships. Most people feel. I've seen people stand at a launching, and that when we launch a vessel, and look back over my shoulder at the crowd, and a lot of people be standing there with the tears running down their cheeks. You know, it's a very moving thing. You take a big ship sitting stationary on the launching ways, and you cut it loose, and it takes off free motion with nothing to control it. It's an exciting sight. And 1935, I got a chance to ship on a three-masted schooner and carry lumber out of the head of the Bay of Fundy. I enjoyed it, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Well, if you were sailing and if the wind was picking up, the skipper would decide when it was time to shorten sail. Then you have to go aloft and fold them and put them into what they call the gaskets. You lace them to the side of the mast. And you've got to get the wind kicked out of that sail, blowing and slapping and snapping like that, and that canvas is very heavy. I never was much of a man to go aloft, but I made myself do it. When you had just the right slant to the wind, and it was just off the quarter, and then you had every bit of sail on her, and she was trimmed just right, they would fly.
This is what's left of our maritime sailing heritage in the United States, are the windjammers. There's a continuum here. This is a typical coaster with certain design changes for the cargo we carry, which is people.
We decided that one couple could operate a small vessel and make a living at and enjoy a good time.
It's very, very similar, I think, to what was here years ago, mom and pop operations. Real homey. But we built her around the idea of our family, Clara and Rachel.
Clara is 9 years old, and she's been sailing since she was 7 months old. She helps with the main topsail. She'll get up there and furl it or set it. Rachel is 7 years old, and she's been sailing since she was 4 months. And she can help tack the main topsail, furl sails, and also she really likes to steer.
They do all kinds of things. I don't know, maybe it was that when we were infants, there were boats on the wallpaper in the nursery or something like that.
Stand by. Where's the jib top crew?
I don't know what makes people want to go to the sea. Many of the people we have come with us have never been on a sailboat. Some of them have never been on the water. And on the other hand, some people have their own boats, but they're just here for a different experience. And there's everything in between. That's great. All these schooners make the whole Windjammer fleet. We all love the company, and they're all beautiful, and they're all individually owned.
The second week of September, all the big commercial working sail vessels get together at the foot of Eggemargan Reach. It's a nice chance to see everybody for one last time all together, and it kind of celebrates the end of the season. The skippers and the owners and the crews and the people who sail on them are not blind to the fact that this is a piece of history we're looking at here. A lot of these vessels are restored schooners, either in the coasting trade or the fishing trades. And the Isaac H. Evans, which was built in 1886, has the distinction of being the first vessel rebuilt to be all sail again. The Roseway, the big Roseway, is a Gloucester fishing model, and she was built and used as a Boston Pilot schooner. The Nathaniel Bowditch, which was built as a family yacht and then became a fishing schooner, and now is a windjammer, and she was built in 1921. The Pinky schooner Summertime is a replica built in Brooklyn, Maine by Captain George Allen, whose family has been involved with sailing vessels since the War of 1812. And then there are a few vessels like the Heritage, like our vessel, which is a brand new vessel. She's not a replica. We designed her as a coasting schooner from the ground up, based on the typical vessels of the 19th century.
Everybody had a good time.
What we're really doing is we're trying to run a 19th century business in the 20th century. And we're doing it.